So I want to talk about the games or literacy section, and to do that we really need to start with the definition of literacy. So what is literacy? How do we talk about it? For the most part, in popular discussions of literacy, we're really talking about reading and writing. But it's slightly more complicated that because we're talking about reading and writing at a specific level, usually, although it's not said out loud, at an 8th grade level, and we're talking about academic reading and writing. So what you have access to in public or private education, and the kinds of texts that are read in those situations, and the kinds of texts that are written, WRITTEN, in those situations, and then what's right, 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 about the texts that have been read, and right about the texts that have been written according to academic metrics. So literacy is not just someone's ability to read and write. It comes along with ways of thinking. So I have to be able to read a text in the right way to produce writing in the right way. And so literacy has rights and wrongs, but those are all really complicated. But then we add these qualifiers in front of it. So we'll say computer literacy, information literacy, media literacy, and we're again adding these qualifiers that it's all centering reading and writing. And what we're not talking about enough are the ways of thinking that are coming along with that. So where does critical thinking fit? And then what in each of those situations does critical thinking look like? And so that's where games or literacy, and even the idea of game literacy, is really complicated, because we have game literacy, like from an outside perspective, what are the basics that I know and understand about games to gain me entrance to specific conversations about games. Like I have, just sitting here because I have a 12-year-old boy, so I have a Pokemon card. This is not just a Pokemon card, there's a game associated with this, but then there are levels and tiers within the game and ways of playing and places to play and certain sets that are allowed to be played at certain times. And there's this whole like information knowledge that I can have about a game to be able to read and write or perform when I'm actually playing. But then if I'm just collecting, so this one is Charmander, there are certain Pokemon that are more acceptable or less acceptable. This is a different way of thinking. So collecting versus playing, and that's just one game. And then there are spaces that I can access all of those things, and who gets into those and who doesn't. And then from, an even further outside perspective, knowing that that game exists and valuing it or seeing some value in the experience that people who play it are experiencing. So there are layers. Like game literacy is not just one thing, but we call it gaming literacy, and Zimmerman's calling it gaming literacy, and then not defining it very well. And so I love that he does this, but it's so complicated, because there are layers, there are things that we have access to because of who we are, and then there are experiences that we choose to engage with. So like I said, I have a 12-year-old boy who's playing Pokemon. There are very specific things about what he has access to and what's around us that make that possible and support those decisions. I am a working mother. I play a lot of casual games on my phone because I can pick them up and put them down as I have 5 minutes to play. So a lot of my gaming literacy surrounds what I'm able to access based on the life that I'm living. All of these are factors in our idea of gaming literacy, but at the end of the day, literacy comes back to, it is reading and writing. But what I want us to start talking about consciously and awarely and out loud is whenever we say literacy, we also mean ways of thinking and ways of knowing. So what I want you to do here, briefly, because some of you I know are super excited about games, can you describe your gaming literacy? Reading and writing, sure, but really focus on ways of thinking and ways of knowing.